So we have a report that says Victor Oladipo is looking to move off of Indiana. And as for why that is, I mean, I don't know exactly. Maybe he's getting the idea that they're not going to give him the money he thinks he deserves for his next extension. Perhaps the relationship between him and the front office has gotten a little worse as they've dealt with this injury thing. The first question I have is, how good is Victor Oladipo at this point? I mean, it's now been 3 seasons since he was really good. He's about to be 29. He's dealt with the quad injury. We all know that quad injuries can be kind of dicey, where you think you're out of the woods, but you're not. Now, he did have his moments against Miami in round 1. He had his fair share of 20-point games, so maybe he still got it, but you'd figure maybe the Pacers just were a little apprehensive to give him a big contract, and I'm sure he wants that, and that's kind of where this type of thing can start. So the thing to think about, obviously, is who's going to trade for him, assuming we're going in that direction. Should be said that Miles Turner is in the rumor mill a little bit as well. We'll have to see with him, but I mean, Oladipo's the main draw right now for the story, let's be honest. So, I mean, the first team I think about is Dallas. Playing next to Luka gives them their other ball handler. I don't really know how the move happens, though. Although I should say, I think Oladipo's market is going to be interesting because of the injury stuff and because he's got the 1 year left. I don't know if the Pacers would get a haul back for him, you know what I mean? But probably still something good. So with Dallas, they would have to wait until the trade or until draft night because then they could move their 2020 pick. But they don't really have a young player or even a player in his mid-20s or whatever that the Pacers would really want, if you ask me. Unless they would be all in on Tim Hardaway Jr. He's not even young anymore. He's 28, but I mean, he's a guy who can give you some points. And if I was the Pacers, I'd probably be looking to get a good player. As far as what good means, it depends on who we're talking about. And a first-round pick. That's kind of what I would hope for. Whether other teams are going to want to give you that, I don't know. Again, I think Oladipo's quad does make this a little more interesting. But yeah, I did think of Dallas first. The next team I would think of is the Bucks. Similar to the Mavs, a lot of their picks are not really available in a move. Unless they wanted to trade one that's like 4 or 5 years down the road. I think they would be allowed to do that. I forget what the limit is on how far in the future you can trade a pick. But given the Giannis situation, maybe you don't want to be trading picks in the mid-2020s. And the only other pick they have is like the Pacers pick this year, and I don't know if that's going to do it, especially when similar to Dallas, they don't really have a player that you see and it's obviously like, oh, you trade that guy, and the Pacers would want him, you know. I've seen people talk about Miami a little bit for Oladipo. Similar to the Bucks and the Mavs, their draft pick situation is not exactly ideal, and as we all know, they're saving up their cap space for after next season, I'm pretty sure. And also, who are you moving? I would not move Hero. You're, of course, not moving Bam, and I don't think Kendrick Nunn is good enough to get that sort of thing done, so I just don't know if there's a move there. I'm just kind of naming teams that I've seen talked about in the 1 hour that this has been on Twitter so far. The Celtics, the idea of like a Hayward for Oladipo swap, I mean, I'm just not convinced that post-quad surgery Oladipo is better than healthy Gordon Hayward. But Hayward has also had an injury to both of his ankles now at this point. It is both of his ankles, right? I'm pretty sure it is. So maybe his long-term look isn't as good. And, of course, the Celtics have some draft picks if they wanted to do that. Can we talk about Philly? Is there a move for the Sixers? I mean, I don't know if the money's really there for them, because I don't think the Pacers are going to want Horford or Tobias. The Sixers have the picks, but I just don't know if there's a real exciting move there for Indiana. I mean, you could get Josh Richardson, who is a solid player, but It's nothing too wild. What about Sacramento? Can we do an Oladipo for Buddy Hield swap? The two guys who have been in the rumor mill a bit, just trade them for each other. I mean, Buddy Hield, I think that would be a pretty decent return for Oladipo, especially because Buddy Hield is under contract for a long time, and he's not that expensive. And as for the Kings, Oladipo would give them the extra ball handler and shot creator that I think they need. But again, it's like Oladipo's only got 1 year, so if you're going to trade for him, you got to be confident that you're going to be able to convince him to stay. I guess I probably should have mentioned the Nets by now. I guess this could be a Karis LeVert move. This is the type of thing that it seems like the Nets have made kind of obvious that they would trade Karis for. Oladipo, you'd think a little better of a shooter. But while I'm sure KD and Kyrie would be okay with it, well, I don't know. Maybe they're just all in on LeVert. How would the Nets front office feel as much about this? Because with LeVert, it's like he's very cheap. 16, 17, and then 19 million his last season. Whereas with Oladipo, I mean, I don't know what the hell his extension's going to look like. Now, there's a chance that it won't be too expensive. Probably a little more expensive than LeVert's. Maybe not too bad to where that you'd still do it, but they are pretty locked into money. They're at $140 million, and that's before re-signing Joe Harris. So maybe it's a Joe Harris sign-and trade, and he's one of the pieces going to Indiana. Joe Harris and Karis LeVert for Victor Oladipo. I think Nets fans would think that that's too much. Pacers fans would be pretty okay with it. I don't know. Maybe the middle ground guy would be Taurean Prince. I've mainly been in the Eastern Conference for a bit. We move on to the West. Besides Dallas, we already talked about them. Could Denver have an Oladipo trade? I don't really think so. I think the move would have been Gary Harris, but because his offense has fallen off, I don't know if it's really there unless the Pacers would be cool with Will Barton. Maybe the Pacers would really want, like, Jeremy Grant if he accepts his player option. I guess that could be a bargaining chip. I'm sure Houston would love to get Oladipo. They do have those 2 picks in 2022 and 23, and I believe they can trade at least one of them. I mean, it's weird because they're sandwiched between protections and stuff. I don't know if the Stepien rule still applies like that. But I don't know if there's a move in terms of players. It would have to be like Eric Gordon and Robert Covington or something, which, I mean, it's 2 solid NBA players, but, well, again, maybe that's Oladipo's market. I don't know. And if anything, the wild thing is, for the Rockets' sake, they could view that as like a, well, even if this doesn't work out, we can get out of this money a lot faster. But I don't think the Pacers would be going too wild over that move. I thought of the Pelicans as well as the Grizzlies in the West, but I don't know if there's really a move. I mean, like, Holiday for Oladipo works, but does that make the Pelicans that much better? I feel like for that move to really be something, you would need both of those guys still on the roster with Zion and Ingram. And as for Memphis, I mean, they can make the money work because they've got Gorgie Jang's contract. But unless it was going to be like Dylan Brooks, who even then the Pacers would have to be really big fans of Dylan Brooks. I just don't know if there's a player moving there. I guess if we're looking at teams in a similar boat to that one, there's Phoenix. Now, I know I would say, well, you got to convince Oladipo to stay. Yeah, but I would give a team like Phoenix, who's on the upswing, more of a chance than other below 500 teams, and this could be another way for a team like Phoenix, who's been desperate to be good, to kind of jump back into the playoff hunt, besides what they just did in the bubble, of course. I mean, Oubre and Kaminsky makes the money work. Whether the Pacers would want a second real player, I guess, would be a question. I mean, I don't think Phoenix would give up Mikal Bridges. I don't think they would give up Cameron Johnson, so I don't know. But, like, Oubre would be a pretty cool return for Oladipo, and for Phoenix, it's the idea of, yeah, we're getting older, but the guy we're trading for is hopefully better and can be more of a veteran guy for our team and help us out defensively more than Oubre does. I think Atlanta could be cool, but I don't know if they have the players that the Pacers would really want. I mean, they've got young guys who could be good, but I just feel like Indiana's going to want more of a guy who can help them win right now if they trade Oladipo. I guess I would say a similar thing about the Knicks. I mean, if they were looking to have a massive turnaround in one offseason, then this could be the type of thing they jump on. But the one guy they have who I think teams would be interested in is Randall, and the Pacers' front court is already pretty secure. Unless Miles Turner was also going to be on the move. But even then, it's like, is Sabonis and Randall that different from Sabonis and Turner? I mean, it's kind of similar on offense. Actually, if anything, the spacing would be even worse. Do you think Orlando would take Oladipo back? I'm sure they would enjoy it, because they've needed a guy like him basically since they got rid of him. Didn't they trade him for Ibaka? That was a weird one. But I don't know what the move is. Like Aaron Gordon, I don't really want Aaron Gordon if I'm the Pacers. And Evan Fournier, I mean, Fournier is a solid player. He'll give you a nice 16, 17, 18 points a game on good shooting and stuff, but it's not that exciting of a move. But hey, maybe that's Oladipo's market. I feel like I've gone through enough teams. There's not too many more I can think of. So yeah, that's all I got. We'll see what happens with this whole thing. And that's that.